Greetings and salutations, one and all. All those who are on fire, all those who are chilling, all those just easy breezy. The sound of Neville. It's called Burning Up. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing, one and all? It's the end of the night shift week. I want to say big ups to each and everyone locked in right now, those on TuneIn Radio. The night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. And those on affiliate stations. Big ups to you, those on PEMGTV.com. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And of course, the ones right here at the home of the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew, kevinstew.com. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You know, I couldn't do it without you, right? Believe me, I wouldn't even try to. And you have my word on that. This is such a fun song. I got the whole place burning up. One time, two time, three time, rewind. One time, two time, pull up selector. Rewind again. I got you, Davil. We're not gonna really pull it up tonight to the bud. Rewind. One time, two time, pull up selector. I want to say thanks to Pulsey Media Group for sponsoring this segment of the show. When being in the moment is priceless, give them a call. 754-999-6020. Or you can visit them at paulcmg.com. They can make what you see right here happening on kevinstew.com possible for you. They can host your site. Or they can give you features like this that I have, where I can stream live to my site. Wouldn't you like that? You've got the whole place burning up. Not just a little bit of the place, you know, the whole place. That's serious, you know. Inviting each and every one to call a friend, tell a friend. It's a night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. So we have to ask a question. When a natural disaster happens, how do you feel? I should go ahead and change this, shouldn't I? Let me change it before we get into our deep discussion. Yeah, it's kind of small, but it took a little effort getting it all to fit. We're looking at the psychological effects of natural disasters. Now you can participate by calling in 754 lie, that's not the number, 773-789-STEW. You can call, you can text, you can jump into the stew pot on kevinstew.com. Others call it a chat room. It's the stew pot right here on the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew because we're fancy like that. Yeah, you know, chat room, whatever. It's where we keep things bubbling. So jump on in, the water is always fine. Marlon is already there. It's Marlon's favorite night shift show, ladies and gentlemen. Real Talk Wednesdays. Happy hump day to y'all, by the way. Now, so, most of the East Coast had their eyes and ears glued to what was happening coming up through the Caribbean into the Atlantic, being Hurricane Dorian. And all of Bahamas was, well, they felt the impact of it in some way, shape, or form. Whether it is that they just had a lot of rain, or they had destruction from wind and flooding. Those that saw sea life swimming by their windows, you know, various things happened through this weather event. But what really, what was the kind of effect that these natural events have on people? And it's some of those things that we're going to look at tonight. And I am really hoping that I have enough time to get through all the information that I have, because I found a lot of information on this. And if you choose to join in and share, give your input, you're welcome to do so. That's what the night shift is all about, right? We grow together, we learn together. Sometimes we have to cry together, and sometimes we laugh together. More often than not, we're encouraged to be happy. So the impact of a natural disaster is often measured by a handful of numbers: the number of fatalities and injuries, the number of homes and buildings destroyed, the cost of cleanup and repair, so the number of dollars that has to be spent. And it often doesn't account for the emotional wounds that are inflicted on survivors. When people experience these traumatic and often unexpected events, their first reaction is usually a combination of fear and distress. They're so far beyond the norm of normal human experiences that they really stand out. And this is what Craig Sawchuk, a clinical psychologist at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, said. These events, they really stand out. Even after torrential rains end, or the flood recedes, or the fire burns out, many people continue to feel enormous amounts of stress and anxiety. And scientists predict catastrophic weather events will become more frequent, as we've been talking about all week, and more extreme, with rising global temperatures putting more people at risk for mental health problems. Now, for those of you who are regular listeners to the night shift, you'd have realized that this whole week was one continuous theme: the effects of global warming, or the effects of global warming, pretty much. And like it or not, call it whatever you wish, it exists, and there are effects of it. So we looked at what it is. We looked at how it could impact our health, our general health. And one of the last areas of general health that we touched on before we closed out last night's show was mental health, which led to this tonight. Stressful events activate the body's fight or flight response, unleashing adrenaline and stress hormones like cortisol. Almost everyone exposed to a natural disaster will experience some of these immediate biological and psychological effects. But some people will be so distressed that they become withdrawn or increase their use of drugs and alcohol. Chronic stress, regardless of cause, can impair the parts of the brain presiding over reasoning and self-control, leading to more impulsive behavior and an increased likelihood of addiction. In 2010, researchers found that approximately 1/3 of Hurricane Katrina survivors who had been displaced to Houston, Texas, had increased their tobacco, alcohol, and marijuana use after the storm. It it was a traumatic event. After a natural disaster, your entire routine in life is disrupted. This says Christy Manning, an assistant professor of environmental studies and psychology at Macalester College in Minnesota. Many people are unable to return to work. Some lack strong social support. And then there is added financial burden of repairing or replacing damaged property. Can be quite stressful. The long period of rebuilding perpetuates people's feelings of uncertainty and chronic stress, says Manning. Turning to alcohol and drugs may be a way to regain a feeling of control over their lives, especially if they had engaged in these behaviors before the disaster. Now, the trauma of witnessing the destruction of one's home and losing pets and loved ones can also give rise to anxiety and depression. After the Northern California firestorm in October of 2017, the number of people seeking mental health resources in Sonoma County nearly doubled. Many of the calls came from new patients. So if you think that it was when you see someone wearing a t-shirt saying, I survived this weather event or this natural disaster or that natural disaster, there's a whole lot more to the words I survived than we tend to really think about or give credit to, because there's a whole lot in that. I survived Hurricane Gilbert, and I'll tell you this, maybe there's something wrong with me. We all know that normal for me may be abnormal for others. But I'll tell you this. During Hurricane Gilbert, I watched trees fall in my yard. I listened as a part of my roof, lifted, and I don't even know where it went. I felt the water under my feet as I walked through the house. The house was carpeted. At the time, it was carpeted. It didn't have any carpet after this event. And I felt the raindrops coming in through as I looked up through the ceiling at the sky. I experienced all of that. But I don't know. Maybe something is different about me. Well, of course we know something is different about me. But it wasn't a oh no, it's over for me kind of a thing. I don't know if it was because it was my first hurricane at the time, but it was just another event. I don't know if it was the faith that my mother had. I don't know if it was the joy that she experienced going through every event that I knew her to go through. That was a comfort to me. I don't know. But it wasn't that traumatic an event for me. And yeah, it was disastrous. It was no joke. Many days without electricity. We used gas stove. We had a gas stove, so we could cook. But I guess because I was young, the stress of it all to provide for the family and to prepare things for the family, I didn't really feel it. So I lived through the experience, and I had fun memories of the experience. When the hurricane actually started, I was outside in the rain and wind, walking almost parallel to the ground, because back then I was really small. When I say really small, you think I'm skinny now? Boy, I wish I could find those pictures. I think my sister has some, but I was this little thing. And I was out there in the wind and the rain. Well, I was checking on my neighbor, so I had reason to be out there. I wasn't just running around playing. But those were the memories that I had of it. So I wasn't as traumatized, but it's a traumatic experience. As an adult going through these experiences, I haven't had the anxiety, but I recognize the dangers of the event. I recognize what is involved in providing for a family when there's a disaster of this nature. And I recognize the stress that is involved, that it can come with. So when you talk about the people of New Orleans and southern Texas and Louisiana, Alabama, over that side, that really felt the brunt of Katrina, I can understand them turning to alcohol and drugs. Because, yes, I was MAGA. I can understand them turning to drugs. Because they need they need a way to get away. I'm not saying that that's what you should do, but I understand it. Low income populations, the elderly, people of color, women, and children are especially vulnerable to the mental health related impacts of natural disasters. Children in particular may experience changes in behavior, development, memory, and executive function. They may suffer from malnutrition due to disruptions in food supply. They may start wetting the bed or exhibit physical symptoms like stomach aches. Even adults may have nightmares. They may worry excessively about safety or have strong physical reactions like trouble breathing when reminded of the disaster they survived. These are classic symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, which can start to appear in the weeks or months following a disaster. 6 months after Hurricane Sandy, a brief telephone screening found that 14.5% of survived adults were suffering from PTSD. So it is not just our servicemen and women who went to war and have come back that suffer from PTSD. No. It's not just our security forces, our police officers that after having gone through gang violence or a shootout or a car chase that may suffer from PTSD. No. It's post-traumatic stress disorder. Anything that is traumatic. It could be your breakup in your relationship. You can suffer from PTSD. And it's real. But not everyone will need treatment. Most people will be resilient, meaning they won't suffer from long-term psychological symptoms. Or they'll just be psycho, like, But Sarah Love, an assistant professor of psychology at Montclair State University in New Jersey, says, Sarah Lowe, She and her colleagues interviewed survivors of Hurricane Katrina a few years after the storm and found that more than 60% displayed resilience. These people usually felt they had stronger social support and more financial resources and were generally more optimistic than other survivors. So, what of the other 40%? Community rebuilding and psychological first aid can also be extremely helpful in people's resilience and rehabilitation. In adults, this means helping them recognize symptoms of trauma and providing coping mechanisms to address negative thoughts and feelings. For children, this may mean reconnecting with friends in school and receiving support from adults and caregivers. Implementing targeted social care is critical after a natural disaster. For saving lives, for jobs, and for families. Absolutely critical. I remember, for me, I guess the real trauma was going back to school. What I cannot remember, to be honest with you, is how long after the storm it was that I actually went back to school. That I cannot remember. But I do remember not being able for a while to live in a section of the house. And I remember putting tarp on the roof. I remember having to walk in particular places for fear of falling through the roof. Had to walk in the reinforced areas. And that was fun. That was actually fun. It wasn't stressful at all. It was fun. I remember going over to my neighbor's house because the coconut tree fell across the fence, and that became the new walkway for us boys to go through into each other's yards and play. I remember that. I remember the breadfruit tree that was in the backyard falling over on its side and starting to grow again. And it became this hangout spot. So much so that we put cushions in the breadfruit tree and we would lounge there because we'd feel the breeze and we had the shade from the sun. And over to the next tree was a mango tree. So we had mangoes to eat. And we had an orange tree. So we could pick a couple oranges and have orange. Well, when it started blooming again. When it started bearing fruit again, that is. Because the wind took just about everything that was blooming at the time. I don't even remember what was blooming. But yeah, the blooming storm took everything that was blooming. But these are the experiences. I have fond memories of the storm. And I guess because of these good times, I didn't have the trauma. I didn't have the PTSD. And at nights when we didn't have electricity, but we sat around together telling stories and making up jokes. That was my good time. So I guess the stress for me, the trauma for me came when we resumed some sort of normalcy. But I don't think I needed therapy for it. I need therapy now for other things, but I don't think I needed therapy for that. 29 minutes to the top of the hour. We're going to take a quick little break. Call a friend, tell a friend. We're looking at the effects, the psychological effects of psychological effects of natural disasters. And yeah, I made light of my situation, but that was my situation. And it's not someone else's. I know of people that lost their lives in Hurricane Gilbert. I know of people that lost their homes. I know of people that had a very rough time recovering. We actually had a very rough time recovering, but I didn't know it. I didn't feel it. I didn't have that experience. It happened, but I wasn't made to feel it happening. It was life and it was love. That was what was happening in my house, in my home, with my family. We're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we look at some more the effects, the psychological effects of natural disasters. Call a friend, tell a friend. It's a night shift with DJ Kevin Stew.
Pulse Media Group, innovative streaming and recording, has done it again. A new way to get your business in full view of your neighborhood consumer through AdShare TV. It's available in your neighborhood today. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. Become a host today and place a TV monitor in a strategic location so it's easy to see. Get a 1-minute video ad or longer that plays anywhere in our network. Can't be a host? No problem. For a few dollars, we'll run your 30-second video ad. A host can run announcement specials like buy one get one free or discount ads. Let's turn your flyers into a 30-second video with music or a voiceover, or let us create and run your video ad with a spokesperson. Take advantage of our early enrollment discount. Join us today. Your ad will be seen at least 30 times per day in your AdShare TV neighborhood. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. AdShare TV, part of Pulse Media Group.
Are you crazy about the music industry? You aspire to hit it big in music? Or maybe you've sweated out a soulful killer beat and are now stuck finding it's not as easy as it looked. Oh, but it can be easy for you with JTMC. We've been there. We know how it feels. So we solve challenges like production, promotion, marketing, branding and development, and more. With over 30 years of experience, JTMC is a one-stop shop for artists. We handle your graphic design, writing services, PR, as well as event planning, e-blasts, artist management, and bookings, so also your website and social media needs as well. We're experts in using creativity to persuade audiences on behalf of artists, drawing on our diverse experience to create projects that connect with audiences intellectually and emotionally. Artist success is everything to us, and our years of experience and commitment will be behind you for every one of your needs. If you've got music for the world to hear, whether you're a new or established artist, visit us at jtmcenterprise.com.
Matthew 28:19 says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations." With this in mind, and encouragement received during a South Florida media conference, The Church Links was birthed. The Church Links is an interdenominational worship service portal for churches, providing the tools to spread the word through technology in a cost-effective way. The Church Links, www.dahchurchlinx.com, your links to worship and praise.
It takes an entire village to raise a child. Hello, I'm Paul Campbell, here to talk about Palace. Peace and Love Academic Scholarship. This non-profit group supports students facing serious obstacles from entering or continuing their studies, not because the grades are failing, but due to the lack of financial support.
Over the past 8 years, Palace has awarded 600 scholarships valued at approximately 50.3 million Jamaican dollars, or 415,000 US dollars.
Together, we must build a better future for our children. Please visit www.palace1.org and make your donation to brighten the future of a deserving child. Palace, preserving young minds for posterity.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school,
In math,
I learned that I'm ugly
I
and
learned
useless.
that I'm trash.
And in gym,
In biology,
I learned that I'm pathetic
I learned that I'm fat
and a
and
joke.
stupid.
In history,
Today in
I learned that
school,
I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick.
And in
And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell.
and in
In chemistry, I learned that no one
In
likes me.
biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid.
In English,
And in
I
math,
learned that I make people
I
sick.
learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today,
The only thing I didn't learn today
The only thing I didn't learn
It's why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
Yes. Akar Mantino, I'm making notes right now. You are locked in to DJ Kevin Stew on the night shift.
I need time for myself, time to think. Can't please everybody, stop talking to me. I'm so tired of myself, it's hard to breathe. Can't please anybody, stop talking to me. And it doesn't matter at all if I win or if I fall. My feelings are stuck inside me, but nobody can see. My feelings are stuck inside me. Can you rescue me? Can you rescue me? Can you rescue me? If I could forget and erase all the pain, would I still remember your beautiful face? If I could go back and erase my mistakes, but I can't, so take me to a better place. And it doesn't matter at all if I win or if I fall. My feelings are stuck inside me, but nobody can see. My feelings are stuck inside me. Can you rescue?
This is the sound of Rebecca Barbosa.
Can you
The track is called Rescue Me. thanks to Althea and her healing heavenly hands for sponsoring this segment of the show. Althea is a licensed massage therapist, and she comes to you. So if you're in Broward County, North Miami-Dade, South Palm Beach County, she'll come to you with table and oils and all. Just go ahead and give her a call. 954-655-9000. That's 954-655-9000. Or send her an email, thealater@att.net. Just be prepared to go to sleep after. See how refreshed I look right now? I had a healing heavenly hands massage earlier. Let me tell you. She rescued me. Go ahead, give her a call. Make your appointment right now. Well, yeah, call her now. Leave a message. If you don't get her, it's just say Kevin Stew made you do it. There you go. That's all. Pass the blame. I'll take it. My shoulders are broad, and if it gets too heavy for my shoulders, I'll just get a healing heavenly hands massage. Hey, it's all good. So tonight, for those of you who are just joining in, we're looking at the psychological effects of natural disasters. Now, there are a number of different natural disasters, and funny enough, you would think that, well, those of us who live on the southeast section in the southeast section of the United States, typically we think natural disasters, we think rain event, tropical storm, or just torrential rains, or hurricane, rain and wind event, the occasional tornado. Let's jump across to the other side of the country for a moment. Earthquakes. And when you mention earthquakes, everybody immediately should visualize California. I know that's the first place that comes to mind for me. An earthquake is the shifting of the Earth's plates, which results in a sudden shaking of the ground that can last for a few seconds to a few minutes. Within seconds, mild initial shaking can strengthen and become violent. Earthquakes happen without warning and can happen at any time of year. Certain states are more prone to higher frequency of earthquakes, particularly California, Hawaii, Nevada, and Washington state. Earthquakes that are even minor ones that cause little damage and destruction can cause people to experience emotional distress, especially in areas not accustomed to these events. Aftershocks can continue to occur for months afterwards and can be just as stressful. It is normal for people to experience emotional distress during an earthquake. Simply anticipating the possibility of what could be lost or destroyed during the event can cause people to experience overwhelming anxiety or lose sleep. Other signs of emotional distress related to earthquakes include being easily startled. As Jamaicans would say, frightened Friday. But being easily startled, having difficulty sleeping or sleeping too much, having thoughts and memories related to the earthquake that you cannot get out of your head, Sounds like a bad romance. But these things are real. So I have an earthquake story also. And again, my earthquake story is not as traumatic. I was in community college. And that day, I had no classes. So, what do? I stay home and sleep. And I'm there asleep in bed, and I feel a shaking. And I'm saying to myself in my sleep, why, oh, why is my mother trying to wake me up at this point in time? Because my mother worked from home. She was a dressmaker. My mother and my grandmother. Or a seamstress, or as to be real fancy, a fashion designer. But I felt the shaking of the bed, and I'm wondering, why is my mother trying to wake me up? I have nothing to do. I have nowhere to go. Leave me be. Let me sleep. And I thought to myself at one point, self, you realize that your mother is not that kind of strong to be shaking the whole bed. I opened my eyes and I saw the walls waving. And I sat in the bed and I looked around as everything shook. And then it hit me. Oh, earth tremor. Because, this is Jamaica. We always say, we feel tremors, not necessarily quakes. And I thought, wait, should I actually go stand in this door jam? Because you're told, you're in the house, you feel an earthquake, come on. You go to the strongest parts of the house, which are typically in standing in the door jams. I get up, the earthquake stops. It's all over by the time I get up. And I go to my mother's workroom. And I was like, I thought that was you shaking the bed. And she was she was like, all that shaking and you think is me doing it? And we had a good laugh. So again, I didn't have that traumatic experience. I went to school the next day to find one of the buildings had this crack going up the side of the building. And I thought to myself, wait, this was a pretty strong earth tremor in actuality. And there was a lot of talk that week about the earthquake that was felt in Kingston, Jamaica. Here's the thing. Again, I didn't have that trauma. And the more I think about it, is the more I believe that the support system that I had around me was instrumental in that. But if you know someone, or if you are that person that shows any of the signs, the being easily startled, the having difficulty sleeping or sleeping too much, having thoughts and memories relating to the earthquake that was experienced, and you can't get it out of your head, and it is going on for 2 weeks or more, whether they are in relation to an earthquake or if it is unclear how they started, there's a disaster distress helpline that you can call and talk to someone. And the number for that helpline is 800-985-5990. 800-985-5990. Or you can text "talk with us" as one word, "talk with us." Text that to 66746 for support and counseling. It's a toll-free line, multilingual and confidential. crisis support service is also available to all residents of the United States and its territories. So you have Spanish speakers, the works. So who are the people that are at risk for emotional distress? Well, you have earthquake survivors, the people living in impacted areas, particularly children and teens, previously exposed to traumatic, life-threatening situations, are especially vulnerable to emotional distress. These people also may have once been displaced. Being displaced is not fun. Friends and loved ones. It is normal for friends and family members located outside of the impacted area to feel anxious about people who are in direct proximity to an earthquake. You feel for them. Empathy is just bubbling up inside you. First responders and recovery workers. These individuals may experience prolonged separation from loved ones, and depending on the severity of the earthquake, they may show signs of mental fatigue also. Now, returning to a home, a business, a school, or a place of worship impacted by an earthquake may cause additional distress, especially if there's if there is structural damage. A temporary or permanent loss of employment may also happen. Remember that the anniversary of a disaster or tragic event can renew feelings of fear, anxiety, and sadness in disaster survivors. Sounds such as sirens and sights of destroyed buildings or cracks in walls can also trigger emotional distress among earthquake survivors. These and other environmental sensations can take people right back to the event or cause them to fear that it's about to happen again. These trigger events can happen at any time. Creating an evacuation plan and gathering emergency supplies before an earthquake occurs can give you a sense of control and help you and your loved ones feel more secure in the event of an earthquake. But again, it doesn't come with warnings. So if you live in an earthquake area, you need to always be prepared. People can experience a wide range of emotions before and after a disaster or traumatic event. There is no right or wrong way to feel. However, it is important to find healthy ways to cope when these events happen. So, if there are coping tips that you need to learn for dealing with earthquakes and other types of disasters, go ahead and find them and learn them. Because if there's one thing that is for sure, disasters are going to continue happening. They're going to be more frequent and they're going to be more intense. Another traumatic experience would be going through a wildfire. Now, this one I have not had. Wildfires are usually triggered by lightning or accidents, and often go unnoticed at first. They can spread quickly and are usually destructive if they occur near forests, rural areas, remote mountain sites, and other woodland settings where people live. Now, while not reported as often as floods or tornadoes and severe storms, they too can cause emotional distress in people living in affected areas. In 2013, more than 47,500 wildfires were reported in the United States. That's a lot of wildfires. They destroyed thousands of structures, including about 1,100 homes, and burned more than 4 million acres of land. Feelings such as overwhelming anxiety, constant worrying, trouble sleeping, and other depression-like symptoms are common responses before, during, and after wildfires. Other signs of emotional distress related to wildfires include having thoughts, memories, or nightmares related to the wildfire that you cannot seem to get out of your head. And worrying a lot of the time, feeling guilty about, but not sure why. And excessive absences from work or school can also occur. And these are just a few of the warning signs of disaster-related distress. Now, people living in areas where wildfires occur, particularly in communities in Arizona, California, Colorado, Utah, and other states in the Midwest and Western regions of the United States, may be vulnerable to emotional distress. People who have struggled to recover from experiences with past wildfires also may experience distress. Other people at risk for emotional distress due to wildfires include children and teens. After a wildfire, young people may worry that another one will happen again, especially if they witness the fire and the loss of their home. And some children may become withdrawn, while others may become agitated and irritable or display outbursts of anger. With older adults, they are more likely to need social support to reduce the effects of stress and move forward on the path of recovery. They also may have limited physical mobility and lack independence. First responders, these guys here, may experience prolonged separation from loved ones and show signs of mental fatigue. I particularly want to touch, before I end the show tonight, on first responders. But I have some more disasters to look at and reacting to these, how people react to these events. Once warning signs and evacuation orders are issued, the risk for emotional distress becomes greater. Because, typically, the news sensationalizes things and blows things up a little bit more than they really are. And this can be argued a couple of ways. One, so that nobody believes that it is just something to shrug your shoulders at and just continue going on. It's an actual dangerous event. Or in a way that can keep you calm so that you can move effectively and quickly. Again, the risk for emotional distress becomes greater if you or your loved ones may feel unprepared, isolated, overwhelmed, or confused. Uncertainty about where to go during a wildfire, how to keep you and your loved ones safe, how to care for your pets, or whether you will be able to continue taking any medications can cause emotional distress. You may lose contact with a loved one in an impacted area, or even a pet. If you're relocated and lost your house to a wildfire, being in an unfamiliar environment can be difficult, especially for people with limited physical mobility, economic means, or knowledge of the English language. And out west, you have that issue, that language barrier, a lot of times because of migration. I was about to go into another one, but it's time for a quick little break. So we're going to take this little break. We come back. We touch on one more, and then we touch on first responders. Cool? Sound like a plan? Cool. All right. So that is going to be the plan. We'll do that. We'll be right back after these few messages.
JTMC Music presents the highly anticipated, much talked about, The Juggling Rhythm Volume 1. This classic rhythm takes on a new life with tracks from both established artists and introduces some incredible new voices. Get your dancing shoes ready with The Juggling Rhythm, featuring international reggae dancehall artist Mr. Vegas, alongside Ian Sweetness, Ed Robinson, Jack Radix, Hezron, Dangling, Joanna Marie featuring Galaxy P, Denny Ranks featuring Jawiz, Ambalik, Christine Alicia, Yishka. Also the new sensations on the rhythm: Seal, Danger Lee, Marquis Skelenar, Zachary. Available on all digital media outlets. The Juggling Rhythm. Get it, get it, get it.
I'm in almost every school bus and classroom. You see me around the neighborhood and you tell me that I'm a pretty good kid. Well, I'm one out of every 5 children in America, and I'm struggling with hunger.
Please visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank for ways to help.
Every dollar you donate helps provide 8 meals for kids like me. We are Feeding America, brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
When being in the moment is priceless, consider the ability to share that moment. If you can video it, you can broadcast it. And Pulse E-Media Group has the tools you need. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, graduations, church services, parties, seminars, you name it. Pulse E-Media Group can provide you with a secure medium controlled by you to broadcast your event. Contact us at www.pulsemediagroup.com for more information. Pulse E-Media Group, when being in the moment is priceless.
This is Gia Yee, and you're listening to The Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew.
Sound of G.A.E. The track is called No Emoji.
Is it real?
I want to say thanks to JTMC for sponsoring this segment of the show. JTMC will take care of your tour management, your bookings, your promotions, your entertainment, your event management, your social media management. Just give them a call, 678-793-8800. Or check them out at jtmcenterprise.com. No emoji found. Where are you looking? So, we're continuing with psychological effects of natural disasters. And one of the disasters that we don't talk about very often is drought. And a drought is a natural, a normal reoccurring weather event that can vary in intensity and duration by region of the country and even by location within a state. Think Nevada. Drought occurs when there is lower than average precipitation over a significant period of time, usually a season or more. Other causes of drought can be a delay in the rainy season or timing of rain in relation to crop growth. Drought is a slow-moving, hazardous event. So the psychological effects of living through this type of disaster are more subtle and last longer than with other natural disasters. Low water availability creates shortages in water supplies that impact various activities and the environment. The impact is even greater as humans place demands on water supplies. Additionally, drought conditions increase the risk of other natural disasters such as what we just spoke about before the break, wildfires, and even landslides. Warning signs for emotional distress related to drought may include feelings of overwhelming anxiety, constant worrying, trouble sleeping and other depression-like symptoms, disputes between people over limited water supplies, health concerns related to dust, low water flow, or poor water and air quality, financial concerns related to crop failures, low supply and demand of agricultural related products, or rising food prices. These are the common responses to disasters such as droughts. And again, reactions can vary. Now, I have a story. In Jamaica, we experienced quite a bit of these things. So we would go through dry seasons. And there would be times when water is at a premium. You turn on the tap and you hear literally there's nothing in the pipe. And again, I don't know if it was because I was just happy-go-lucky or it's really the support system, but we lived through this. Bathing in out of a 5-gallon bucket was not something uncommon to me. Drought came around, here we go. Time for the bucket. And it got to the point where we had installed a water tank on the roof of the house. So even if we didn't have high flow or high pressure water, we had water. Now, we didn't have the luxury of having hot water all the time. because with the amount of water flow, you just had to fill your bucket and use that to shower. So even showering, well, bathing then became an experience. But again, I don't know if it was because it happened so frequently that it became somewhat of a norm for me in Jamaica. But I didn't have the trauma associated with it. But it was a real thing. The droughts. Real things. And again, it could be youth. It could be the support system. But when I hear of droughts now, droughts hitting farmers out in the Midwest of the United States. Even when I hear of droughts in Jamaica right now, me looking back, looking from here over at Jamaica, I'm like, well, first of all, I'm still asking why it is that Jamaica has droughts when Jamaica is surrounded by water. And Jamaica has so many rivers. So even if the desalination thing not gonna work, we have rivers. But that's for another show. But severe and ongoing droughts can have significant economic, environmental, agricultural, health, and social consequences. For an example, record high temperatures and very low rainfall in California has resulted in extreme drought conditions since 2012. The drought, considered one of the most severe on record, is crippling California's water supplies and agricultural industry. Also, the 2012 drought, often compared to the Dust Bowl of the 1930s, impacted 60% of the continental United States and resulted in billions of dollars in agricultural loss. It was a big, big, big thing. How many people remember that? So the people who are at risk for emotional stress due to the effects of drought include farmers, landscapers, garden supply owners, and others working in agriculture and their families. This group already carries a certain amount of stress from working in a business that is dependent on weather or climate conditions for their livelihood. The financial implications of drought can have significant adverse effects as people struggle for economic survival. People living in rural or remote areas also are at risk. These individuals may get water from private wells or poorly maintained municipal systems. Older adults are typically more prone to heat-related stress and are likely to have chronic medical conditions that change their normal body response to heat. And remember also that the anniversary of a disaster or a tragic event can renew feelings of fear. So even thinking about the drought of 2012, if come 2020 there are signs similar to that of what was experienced in 2012, it could bring back real memories and real feelings for some individuals. And that can be quite traumatic. Now, in the midst of all of this, disasters here, disasters there, disasters of all shapes and sizes, naturally occurring. But even the ones that are man-made disasters, like mass shootings, those are disasters. Those are disastrous. and some of the same emotions are experienced in those. But as evidenced by the 2017 Atlantic hurricane season, natural disasters are relatively commonplace events that are potentially traumatic for many of the individuals caught in their wake. And while human suffering and losses suffered by affected communities are widely reported, the consequences of these events on the men and women who bear the burden of search and rescue, this is understudied and underreported. If you get the opportunity, have a chat with Jess Jefferson. She is the superhero's therapist. She works with first responders. Have a chat with her if you get the opportunity. And she'd be able to shed more light on what it is like with working with first responders. Because no one who witnesses a disaster is untouched by it. And the first responders are uniquely impacted by disasters. Following what has been one of the most aggressive and destructive hurricane seasons on record, it is crucial that we reflect on what we know about mental health consequences for first responders and how we might improve disaster mental health efforts moving forward. So, here's a question. How do natural disasters impact firefighter mental health? Have you ever thought about that? I have done disaster work. I have been a part of a team running a shelter for a hurricane. I have been a part of a team providing food for survivors after a hurricane. So I have rubbed shoulders with a lot of the first responders. I have been a first responder. And again, my experience somehow has been different from these that are on the other side of the spectrum, so to speak. Research has identified several phases of disaster. You have your pre-disaster, which is where your warnings or your threats come into play. Your impact, your heroic, your honeymoon, the inventory, the disillusionment, and then the recovery. Now, in the initial weeks following a disaster, that is the honeymoon phase, community cohesion is at its peak. Altruism is prominent, and many survivors experience optimism as the community bands together. We've seen this over and over again. Expressions of gratitude for first responders, selfless acts, and heroism are abundant. However, as the community returns to normal, that recognition just dwindles away. During the inventory and disillusionment phases, optimism often gives way to discouragement and despondency. First responders may feel abandoned or resentful, and signs of burnout and compassion fatigue become more evident. These feelings are exacerbated for those struggling with wage or benefit issues, which are quite real. Firefighters don't actually make that much money, believe it or not. Finally, in the recovery phase, emotional resources and social support may wear thin for those who continue to struggle. Each disaster has intrinsically unique factors which influence the nature, intensity, and duration of post-disaster stress, which includes control. And while hurricanes and natural disasters are beyond human control and absent of evil intent, flooding and other negative consequences may be exacerbated due to human factors. Many first responders experience anger and frustration directed at their command staff and local, state, and national government agencies for failing to properly staff certain areas or appropriately allocate resources. Additionally, the random, uncontrollable nature of the event may cause feelings of helplessness and heightened anxiety. Then there's exposure. Firefighters may be victims themselves, even while they're trying to help others. Those who have lost their homes or witnessed destructions and loss within their families or neighborhoods experience a combination of grief and trauma that may extend the duration of recovery. High exposure survivors tend to experience more anxiety, sadness, post-trauma symptoms, physical or somatic symptoms, and yes, alcohol use. Then you have scale and scope. Hurricane Harvey was the wettest tropical hurricane on record in the contiguous USA and caused catastrophic flooding and property damage in the Houston area. Irma brought intense wind and rainfall for 37 consecutive hours, resulting in 132 deaths. Maria devastated the entire island of Puerto Rico, leaving residents without power, water, or access to medical care. Puerto Rico is still recovering. When entire communities are impacted to this degree, survivors can become disoriented. Social support that maintains a sense of community and occurs in familial settings is critical. Fortunately, the firefighter community binds together to help their brothers and sisters in times of crisis such as these. For most citizens, after the storm passes, the disaster threat is over, and the recovery and building process can begin. This is your active incident section phase. And for first responders, this endpoint is ambiguous. Hurricanes and floods often remain an active incident as they continue to make related calls. That is, the recovering bodies, for example. And this happens over a period of weeks. Then you have your recurrence. And we know that anniversaries of critical incidents can trigger post-traumatic stress symptoms because hurricanes follow a seasonal pattern. Survivors may be concerned that a storm will hit again before the season ends, or a storm might hit again next season. And this, when you have a storm hitting again the following season, this can trigger incidents of post-traumatic stress symptoms. And at the 1-year anniversary, reminders that we are potentially at risk can also reignite disaster stress and hypervigilance. And someone who, as we're talking about first responders and them going through the trauma of a disaster, here comes to the rescue our superheroes therapist.
How good, but I'm so sorry I'm late to the party. I was we had some death in my friend's family, so I was there supporting that. I was like, let me hop on.
Well, you know, you are never late. You're never late. You're always on time. You're here
Awesome,
at
awesome.
the right time because we're talking about right now first responders and what they potentially go through in a natural disaster or after a natural disaster.
Oh my goodness, the levels of that just one loaded thing is so much. But I think maybe the most important thing that I would say, therapist hat on, not regular sarcastic jest for this portion, is that think about your personal response when there's danger. Your body alerts you this is not safe, run away. First responders, firefighters, police officers, people in the Army and the Navy, and kind of the armed forces, they have to override that sense of this is not safe to run into that and to stay. And it's not only when there's a hurricane or a storm, they're seeing heinous things day in, day out, then having to go back into their homes. And when a small things happen and they're not responding on level 10, their wife or husband's like, you don't love me, you don't care about me. And they're so used to having that response turned off in order to survive that there's no two ways about it. Because if I feel scared of a fire, but there's a baby on the other side, and my desire to preserve my life outweighs my desire to do my job well, I lose my pension, I lose my family. So you think about somebody who's in military PTSD. When you move away from that communal living, or a firefighter who lives with their brothers 3 out of 4 days, 24 to 48 hours at a time, to be removed from that situation, you're removed from your entire livelihood, your entire pattern of normalcy. So they're often a group of people who suffer in silence, who suffer with substance abuse, tons of divorce, tons of suicidal ideations, or completed death by suicide, to where they're so hopeless that the only way out is to harm themselves. And sometimes people, unfortunately, die by suicide. And first responders, for the past 2016, 17, 18, and 19, more have died by death to suicide than job-related issues. Because there isn't, I mean, except for me, who's out here killing the game for them, anyone who's really like, oh my gosh, like, I totally understand, I really get it, you don't want to stop working, but you want to function at home. Yeah. When your wife is like, you were late to dinner, and you're like, well, but did it kill you? Bad move, son. Don't respond that way. But like learning to navigate through all of those things, identifying hypervigilance, identifying to say that it's okay that I'm not fully okay, or my new normal requires me to be aware of every exit. I can't sit with my back to a door anymore and be able to voice, this is what I need in order to be well, because I'm not going to quit my job. I'm going to continue going into these dangerous situations. I'm going to continue going through keeping my cape on and saving the world. Worse when there's a natural disaster. So I'll loop then into anybody that works into a hospital as a first responder. Yeah. Because those places don't close. Yeah. So when Dorian was coming, if you're in South Florida and you are a spouse of a nurse that works in a hospital, or even somebody who just takes insurance when you go to the hospital, those people didn't have the option of not coming to work. They had to be there. People still have children. No questions asked. Those people still had children. Right. And homes to board up and things of that nature. I was actually at Davie Fire. Where was I at last week? I want to say Station 38 in Davie. And I did a whole day with them. And they were like in the process of like getting ready for the hurricane. Everyone's okay, well, I'm about to have to work, 48 back, when that's like literally 40-hour shifts back to back to back. And then in the midst of all of that, we're still getting calls. So like we're planning, we're going through and refilling, they have like training units, like training rescue, right? Like you call it ambulance. So going through and refilling the training units with enough supplies, should there be any emergencies, you can go out and evacuate. Then there are first responders who, in addition to being a first responder or a nurse or a doctor or whatever, also are on like crisis units. So now not only are you, but you're going like to the Caribbean. So you're being dispatched to the Bahamas in the middle of the saying, hey, you're leaving tomorrow. The average Joe can say, hey, there's a hurricane, I'm not coming to work. Right. Try telling Memorial or Cleveland Clinic you're not coming during a hurricane. They're going to tell you don't ever come back after today. Yeah, I have a nurse friend,
and she was scheduled to work for the hurricane, and there was no saying, well, you know, there's a hurricane, I can't. And she works pediatrics, step down unit from ICU. You know, and
None of that.
there's just no saying no at that point, really.
And the toll that it takes on you. So let's say that you don't have family close by, or your sitter's unavailable. Like, okay, so I don't take care of my kids, and then what? So all of those things that we don't think of when we factor into, oh, well, it's, you know, career day and the firefighter's coming. It's career day and the guy who works special ops is coming. It's career day and the people who go through and, like, collect crime scene fingerprints are coming. We don't think about what is their everyday really like?
Yeah.
And how does that really affect their ability to navigate through life and the things around them? Because there's no crash course in dealing with the things that you see when you're a first responder.
Right.
You can watch 85 episodes of CSI and Bones and Law and Order, and when you deliver a baby stillborn in the back of a rig, there's nothing like that. When you get to the side of a road for a car accident and someone's brains are splattered on the side of the road, and you've been able to smell like the smell of like large volumes of blood.
Right.
There's no course in preparation for that. Like even as a nurse, like you do most of your phlebotomy-sticks on like a plastic arm.
Right.
Until you get more advanced. So like thinking about like what you signed up for, the expectation versus the reality, and that you can't turn that off. So worse, if you live where you work, so now you're driving past places where you saw dead bodies and dead babies and hard things on a Tuesday, taking your kid to school, and you lose it. Oh, there's so-and-so with the crazy dad. There's so-and-so with the crazy mom. So you'll see a lot of people who work in as first responders don't live in the city that they work in.
Right.
Or they'll change departments. So they might have worked like in this part of Daisy and they'll move to another another station within the same department. So you're not passing by where you saw or where you ran your most heinous crime, where you ran whatever. And most people don't get it. So then finding someone to say, oh man, that's got to be hard. I totally get it. I hate, you know, boiled baby funerals, for example, like, and being able to think like that where doesn't people do like, so like as a therapist who's worked in that field, I've been to a boiled baby funeral. And that sounds very like, who would say that? But I think that's to a firefighter, like, oh yeah, totally get it. Like, yep, been to one of those. And to be able to say, oh my gosh,
Wow.
I get it, me too. To say I've gone and I identified a dead body, I've been on a traffic scene, you know, like I can say that I've done those things. Those aren't great badges of honor, but to say, oh my gosh, I totally get it. And that is a very strong smell. That is a very hard to get your memory. That is a very difficult whatever. That goes so much further than, isn't this great? Like, oh, this is so wonderful.
Yeah.
Because we only think about the honor in the work that they do versus the actual sacrifices that they're making to do that work.
Right. And when it comes to natural disasters, it's it's the thing that you don't really plan for. The whether it be the hurricane, for us down here in South Florida, it's hurricanes for us, but you have the wildfires, you have the floods, you have the tornadoes, you have the earthquakes,
The
you have
four
the
mass shootings we've had in the
snowstorms,
past few years.
you have the mass shootings, and I mentioned those. It's not a natural disaster, but it's a disaster nonetheless. And here you have first responders, and these are the people that we look to come in and either save the day or clean up the mess. That's pretty much what first responders do. And nobody, except for, again, in the early stages, in the heroic stage, or the heroic phase of a disaster, that these first responders get recognized. And then maybe sometime around the anniversary, some local official might say, hey, you know, let me go ahead and recognize some people because this would be important for my re-election.
And that's if at that point, that's still an if-then statement. And most of them are used to not being thanked or acknowledged or noticed. And that's sad.
It makes you wonder why they continue doing it.
Oh my gosh, when I tell you that when I sit down with a firefighter or a first responder or another therapist who works in that kind of environment or a nurse, and they sit down and they share their passion for their work.
Yes.
And bare their scars openly about how this is literally like jacked them up in a way that is incomprehensible to them.
Mm-hmm.
They would do it all over again every single day and never worry. I'm actually friends with some of the firefighters from the Florida Firefighter Health and Safety Collaborative, which I'm a part of, which is a really great thing here in the state of Florida, where they pair clinicians, therapists, mental professionals, licensed clinicians with firefighters, and the clinicians go into the stations, they do ride-alongs, they become part of like the fire family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was looking on Facebook during the storm, just sitting at home, and I noticed one of my Facebook friends. They're both firefighters, both work in different departments, and she was on FaceTime with her kids. So she's like, we're sitting here gearing up, getting everything all sorted out, you know, getting ready to run all these really, really long calls and long days. And she's got 5-year-old twins.
Mm.
And she was like, I can only just FaceTime them in between. Thank goodness, you know, I have parents who are around their grandparents who are close enough. But
Right.
imagine having small children, not knowing what's going on. And we're going to hit with Category 4 and Category 5. I don't
Right.
know any house in Florida that's built for a Category 4 Category 5, period. Like, we don't have mountains. We're below sea level. Like,
Right.
it's not the way we're set up, right? So thinking about that, I'm going to be renting into someone else's house, and it's possible that cell phone towers will go down. So even just, not even like during the storm and running out, just the idea of I can't get a hold of my family, how are my kids, what's going on, just that trauma of like, this is happening, or I'm rushing out to go help. I'm trying to think of what happened recently. I don't remember, you know, I'm really bad at the news, but there was something that happened either in northern Florida or southern Georgia or the Carolinas recently. They literally took like brigades of firefighters and police and EMS and went to go and aid in that area. And it was like a very dangerous situation.
Mm-hmm.
Not only are you saving the world here in Broward, if you're in Broward County, and you work for anywhere, whether it's fire rescue, the police department, you're a dispatcher, you're a veteran, any of those fields. Now you're saying, now we're going to the Bahamas, we're going to northern Florida, so you're gone for even more extended period of
Right.
time from your family
Yep.
to go through something that's so unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, well, you know, there was a burglary, we got there, this is what they stole, this is over. There's no telling if there's going to be a tornado that comes out of this hurricane.
Right.
What's going to blow over where? What's going to happen where? Are we going to get stuck in, like, if we look at the Bahamas and think about trying to drive a fire truck through that or a police cruiser through that,
Listen.
all of those things, they can't say, hey, well, I'm sorry, it's flooded, I'm not coming. Oh, thunder really bothers me, so I can't make it. Like, all of those things. And if you're in Florida and you've seen a hurricane hit before, like, you know, the power, those street lights are just poles at this point. Once it rains too hard, all our street lights stop working. It's just raining on a Tuesday. So imagine now in a hurricane,
Right.
there's those old school oak trees that the oak trees that fell over. There's debris from people's yards they didn't tie back down.
Mm-hmm.
The roads are flooded. You're driving through all of that. You can't see in front of you. You still have to go.
Wow. And
it's so contrary to our humanity. Like, just talking about it is like, that's really heavy. Imagine having to live that.
and that's what one of the things I wanted to touch on to raise awareness about. All this week I've been talking about climate change, global warming, and the effects of it. We looked at the economic effects of it, and structural effects. We looked at the general health effects, and now we're looking specifically at how it affects us relating to each other on a psychological level.
Mm-hmm.
And we cannot, oftentimes they are left out, we cannot leave out the first responders. And Jess, thank you for taking a few minutes to come on and talk about them. I just, shortly before you came on, I mentioned that if anybody gets the opportunity, reach out to Jess Jefferson and ask her about first responders. And then here you came, the superhero's therapist.
Listen, like, because my phone was in my bag and I saw your text, and I was like, oh my goodness, let me just hop on. Like, I literally just got home, and I was like, there's still some time. I will call in, even if I can't be on for long. I just want to make sure I can add some value to. You can catch it on the replay, and they have a question about whatever. Call. I'm super open to it. I will answer questions. If I don't know, I will point you to somebody that knows. I'm not somebody that knows everything. I know very little, but what I do know, I know it well.
Yes.
So I don't know it. I will point you to somebody that does, and I'll try and help you figure it out.
I just thank you, Jess. I thank you. And I know your husband is grateful that he doesn't have you in his ear for 2 minutes.
Listen. He's like, who's she talking to on by? And he was like, how's she on the phone? It's cool, no problem. Stop talking to me.
Yeah, he's good.
He's good.
But I thank you, Jess. And again, I just want to take this opportunity to say big ups to our first responders.
Yes.
Thank you for the nurses, the doctors, the insurance information takers, the ones who are signing in patients, or the ones who are putting up makeshift tents to create hospitals. Those that are securing areas, all our first responders, whether you be, excuse me, whether you're in the security forces or you're in the medical field, or you do things like that, which you do, Jess. You're an ear. Because those first responders are often left out too. The ones that are needed for that emotional support. Because clergy are part of first responders. Often overlooked. And I say thank you to you guys, all of you. Thank you.
Definitely. It is a labor of love, and myself included, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Everyone's like, you deal with who?
Yep.
Why? I'm like, because it just makes me come alive. Like, something about it is just like, I need to do it.
After the 2004 hurricanes, I did disaster work. I was on a canteen feeding people in Punta Gorda and in Port Charlotte. And it was an experience like no other. I was a part of a team to do a shelter in the Keys.
See, that's not my ministry. I work with the Red Cross, and they'll be like, hey, come be a shelter person. No, that's not my area. Like, if I'm sleeping on the floor, if I haven't showered, if I don't have coffee, there's kids screaming, I'm not a good person at that point. Like, I am cranky, I'm irritable. People that go and they do disaster relief, that's a different kind of special, because this girl just can't do it. It's not for me.
These people, these volunteers, because these are volunteers. People don't get paid
100%.
to do this.
100% volunteers.
Understand that if you hear of a drive to support some volunteers, get in on it.
It is legitimately done for free. So I am, like I said, I work with the Red Cross. But I do service with armed forces, so I go out and I do, like, therapy trainings for veterans, people who are going to their first deployment, pre-deployment, post-deployment trainings for military member, their family, their children, whomever. And when I tell you, like, I go out there and I get paid $0.00. They'll reimburse for, like, lunch if I'm going to be gone for a long period of time, or if I got to, like, travel out of the state, which I've done several times. They'll pay for, like, the flight and all of that. But when I tell you, like, I am in there putting in, like, work, it is work. It is not just your average sit down and talk group. It is work.
No, it's not. And I know that firsthand. And because of that, I can say thank you to the men and women who do it on a regular.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to the first responders. Thank you to those that assist and work with first responders.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Because without
All right,
you,
sweet.
there are a
It
lot
is
of people that won't make it or wouldn't
Right.
make it.
Agreed. It is almost past my bedtime. I want to just hop on and support you and be able to add some value to the conversation.
Thank
answer
you.
questions if there were any. But my eyelids have gained weight since you got on the
Listen.
phone, and they are trying to meet in the middle of my face, and I have to let them do that.
No, I'm right there, right behind you. Don't worry about it. Thank you, Jess. Remember,
My pleasure.
Hey, Real Talk is always available for you. So,
Indeed.
and I know people who are grateful to have you gone for just 45 minutes or an hour.
Awesome. It's my pleasure, darling. Good night.
All right, take care. We'll talk.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, good night. Ladies and gentlemen, Jess Jefferson, superheroes therapist. Hey, you didn't just hear it from me. That's a first-hand experience right there. Someone who works with them on a regular, with them being first responders. But for everyone who experiences a natural disaster, it's not the end. There is hope for everyone who assists in a natural disaster. If you don't get recognized, remember why you do it. It's not for the recognition. You do it because you are called to help. And you are driven to help. So, help. And in the midst of it all, when you get 5 minutes to lay your head down, and you are so blessed to be able to open your eyes and go out again, start it remembering that it's a good day.
It's a good day. Ain't nothing gonna stop my stride or broke my vibe. All of that can go to hell. I already made up my mind that I'm living my best life. Every day I'm up grown. Every day I'm up grown. Cause every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. And every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. Blessings step on me everywhere I go. Just shine him sunlight through my window. Him say give thanks for life today, because no one knows tomorrow. So I give thanks, no time for stressing. Every breath I breathe is a blessing. Respect to you, Jah. I'm confessing you're on things. I'm not guessing, cause every day above ground is a good day.
Thanks to GMAT Music Solutions for sponsoring or abbreviated musical therapy. GMAT Music Solutions providing musicians, singers, audio engineers, equipment, DJs, sound and light equipment, stage production services. Let's give them a call, 754-307-GMAC, 754-307-4622. Or visit them at gmatmusicsolutions.com. This is new music from Korik, not yet released. It's called Good Day.
Give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. And every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. I already made up my mind that I'm living my best life.
It's what we do. We get to live our best lives. 9 minutes to the top of the hour. Guess what? This is Shanna Lee.
Yeah, DJ, I need you to.
I'm gonna turn it up just a little bit. Before we take it down,
it's time to get down.
I'm gonna turn it up.
You ready?
All the party people.
Everybody here and over there. All my party people everywhere. Doors are closing soon, go get in line. Get inside and have a good time.
Hey, have a good time, y'all.
I don't see no face, I don't hear no words. What I need, I have already heard. That's the rhythm, baby, that's the beat. I told you that's the rhythm, baby. Rock your body, baby. Everything feels so right. Nothing's gonna change my mind. Don't you hide, enjoy the ride tonight. I'll show you what I know. Watch me move and follow. Party people, just like dancing animals.
And for those who like to party, those who normally go to Crave, Crave is supporting those who are affected in Bahamas by Hurricane Dorian.
Find a groove you like.
Drop off your hurricane relief supplies at Crave.
Feel the bass, just let it touch your soul. Touch your soul. Don't try to hide and don't be shy. Go ahead and
Where is Crave?
when the music hits ya. Retap.
4519 North Pine Island Road in Sunrise, Florida.
What you gonna do?
They need non-perishables, baby items being diapers, formula, baby food, toiletries like soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoos, hand soap, deodorants, paper goods, blankets, new or used. They need bottled water, they need canned foods. Just go and drop them off.
Party people, just like that.
Thank you, Crave.
Working Cheerio. Party people, working all night long. Tell me if you're feeling the beat, cause I can't stop feeling the beat. Tell me if you're feeling the beat, cause I can't stop feeling the beat.
Remember, there's a little giveaway going on.
Cause I can't stop feeling the beat.
You can win yourself a free massage, courtesy of Althea and her Healing Heavenly Hands. If you go to kevinstew.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page where you see Contact Me. Put in that comment section the region that Althea covers. Be number 48. Whichever way you end up being 48. If you're number 1 and you come back and be 48, you are 48. I'm gonna count them. That 48th message that I get, whomever it is that sent that 48th message, you get a free massage. But you have to either reside in the region or will be in the region. There you go. So, party people, or if you're not a party person, but you're a working person, everybody benefits from massages. So, go to kevinstew.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page where it says Contact Me, and put your information in there, and tell me the region that Althea covers with her Healing Heavenly Hands. You must either reside in this region or are going to be visiting this region in order to be a winner. Okay? So, go do so, and winners will be announced on September 16. In that Community and Finance show, I'll announce the winner. Go now and go as often as you wish. But you have to get the region. And the region spans over a distance from as far east, west, north, or south to as far east, west, north, or south. You should know because I say it every day. Alright? Cool. This is Belinda Brady working out with Groove Galore Music. It's called Show Me.
It wasn't long ago when I saw your face. Stood there staring at me in a dangerous place. Dancing in a crowded room. Last summer it was late in June. Let me step back, boy. Now you can make your move. When I look into your eyes, sweet danger mesmerized, now too hard to intertwine. But when I step into your soul, I get nervous, I can't lie. Show me what you gonna do when you hold me. What you gonna say when you touch me. Now that you know it's set me ready. For all your loving one. Show me what you gonna do when you hold me. What you gonna say when you touch me. Now that you know it's set me ready. For all your loving one. Temptation madly draws me closer to you. I wanna be wrapped up in your sexy groove. Trouble's gonna run, they coming my way. Captivated by sweet words you say. Throw caution to the wind. Let us fly away. When I look into your eyes, sweet danger mesmerized, now too hard to intertwine. But when I step into your soul, I get nervous, I can't lie. Show me what you gonna do when you hold me. What you gonna say when you touch me. Now that you know it's set me ready. For all your loving one.
I found love in you, and I learned to love me.
This is how we're bouncing out to hear the sound of Ed Robinson.
Never have I felt
Yeah, we get to talk to Ed on Monday evening right here on Community and Finance.
into the perfect tone.
We'll see if we can find out why he loves
This is why I love
you.
you. This is why I love you.
I want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your support.
Love me, you love.
And once again, look out for members of your community.
This is why.
Even now, especially now, after this natural disaster in the Bahamas. Those are our neighbors.
You love.
Neighbors are not just the people that live in your community or when you step outside your home. No. They spread far and wide. Whether you walk, ride, or drive, whether you take the bus, the plane, the boat, or the train, the people that you sit beside, the people that you pass along the way, these are neighbors. Look out for somebody today. Do something good for one of them. Because you never know who's going to do something good for you tomorrow. My name is DJ Kevin Stew. This is how I like to do it to you, for you, and with you. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 10 p.m. till midnight, right here on kevinstew.com. Catch you next week. If you can't be good, y'all, you know what to do, right? Be good at it. I'm out of here.
You love me. This is why I love you. Oh, this is why I love you. Because you love me. You love me. Stars are all aligning right now. Is the perfect time to say I love.
When being in the moment is priceless, consider the ability to share that moment. If you can video it, you can broadcast it. And Pulse E-Media Group has the tools you need. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, graduations, church services, parties, seminars, you name it. Pulse E-Media Group can provide you with a secure medium controlled by you to broadcast your event. Contact us at www.pulseemediagroup.com for more information. Pulse E-Media Group, when being in the moment is priceless.